don't let me ask you to do a little favor for me. Don't ask what time it is right now. It's it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate hour, but my day schedule got kind of, let's just say, scrambled because I was traveling. I had to fly back from Colorado early in the morning with like not negative sleep, but pretty much zilch for sleep last night. So I ended up just sleeping all day. But all that rest combined with 9 steak, cheese, rice, and queso stuffed tacos from Chipotle, a variety of other treats and cereals, and a big ass fruit smoothie. And I feel pretty prepared to throw legs around. So hamstrings will be the same as normal. I mean, hamstring curls, seated, lying. I might even do a standing one where you sit on the leg extension backwards. We'll just have to see. But yeah, hamstrings is pretty good, just because my hamstrings feel really strong right now. But quads, I'm a little bit, just very slightly incapacitated. The right quad, I can feel I kind of pulled it a little bit, real deep like not really like a specific head or anything, but I can tell it just gets a little tender if I really push it too hard. So quads will be a little bit more go by feel style. Not that most of my training isn't, but if you know you've tweaked something, if you know your shoulder's kind of crunchy because you went too heavy on, barbell bench and you flared your elbows out too wide, anything relatively serious like that, then you know not to push it to the point where you're actually hurting yourself even worse. But just because you have some kind of tweak somewhere doesn't mean you can't work around it. It's just something you have to be kind of mindful about. Because I wouldn't want to just skip quads for the next like 3 weeks, right? I want to get as much activation as I can without actually, tweaking it any further. That's what I'm going for there. But quads will be mainly leg extensions, light squeezing sets, maybe some sissy squats. I will have to freaking see. But at the end of that, just sit down on the adductor machine, squeeze my legs back and forth a couple times, and that'll pretty much be the end of it. I'm not really an abductor fan. I don't do any direct glute work, which if you've seen any of these leg days, you pretty much already know that, because I want bigger legs, I want bigger hamstrings, I want bigger quads, I want my adductors, the inside of my quads, to kind of thicken up too, so when I'm looking at my legs from the front, they're pretty wide, right? They're getting a little bit of extra girthiness. But your glutes, man, I don't know. I'm not it's, I guess whatever kind of build you're trying to build, that'll determine if you want to hit glutes. The I guess that's unfortunate for the 4% female viewers. I'm never. Sometimes I explain how I'm doing lifts and what I'm trying to feel. Not really any info glute wise, but as a dude, I don't think it's really necessary, right? I mean, I could see one situation where it does come into play, and that would be, actually, I guess two. I guess two. One is the Hank Hill situation, where you legitimately have zero glutes, your butt is like completely flat, and it makes you look kind of funky. Then I guess I could, I respect it, get after it. Or if you're like a power lifter and you want to increase the strength of your posterior chain, because that's what you're training for, then I can see that too. But just the average lifter slash kind of bodybuilder, which I'd classify standard lifters as bodybuilders. Just because you don't compete doesn't mean you're not really trying to grow muscle, right? That's kind of what we're all here for. But the average Joe, I don't think it's necessary. I'd rather see somebody spend that much time and energy that they would on like 3 sets of, 4 plate glute bridges on leg extensions or leg curls or squats, stuff like that. I think thickening up the thigh is gonna do you much better. And honestly, I feel like most lifters almost want their butt to be smaller so it makes their legs look bigger. So it just kind of makes, I don't know, doesn't make an insane amount of sense to me to be really biasing your glutes. But again, do whatever you want, right? It's don't just listen to me. right? You gotta do shit that actually makes sense to you. So if you want to develop your glutes, guess what, man? Go for it. That's your deal. That's your prerogative. So I highly doubt anybody's going to be in here, but there might be a couple folks. I guess we'll have to see. But let's get started. Let's get in there. So instead of seated, which I like the seated hamstring curl at this gym, but I don't know. I feel like I've been doing seated for a couple days in a row, or a couple leg days in a row as the starter. So I want to start off with laying instead. So sometimes I want to do maybe, I mean, honestly, even like half the stack for, a slow controlled squeezing set. But I also kind of like doing as much weight as I can do and really kind of throw it around. Because it's, no, it's just kind of a different feeling. Honestly, I would not want to do all my sets just light, slow, and controlled because, I don't know, I feel like I get something pump-wise out of, doing really kind of heavy, brutish sets. But that does not mean do like absolute bullshit reps. I'm not talking about like non-complete rep ranges, at least not for the first few where you're strong. For these first like 5 or 6 or even 10, I don't think this stack is like insanely heavy. They're going to be legit reps, full extension and then pretty decent contraction. I might not touch my hamstrings with the pad on every rep, but I'm kind of aiming for there. And then once I can't reach like 90 degrees with my legs, I'm not just going to stop the set and rest. I've still got a ton of juice left in the tank, so that's why with hamstrings and a lot of movements where you can do partials, I like doing them, I wouldn't end a set of lat pull downs just because I couldn't get the bar to like chin level. Like, oh, nose level, okay, I'm done. Come on. You get so much more room for effort that to end a set like that, unless you're doing bench or squat, where you can hit failure legit on a rep and not be able to get any partials out. That's the only kind of sets where I wouldn't want to do too many partials, at least for the most part. Let's just repeat that a few times. One more. Whew. I think after this one, we can go do some seated curls. Okay, so this set, I'm gonna change it up just slightly. Instead of just doing a straight up set, so hit failure, whatever, racket, I'll do some rest pause. So pretty much the same approach. Like I'm just gonna do a normal set, pretty much right to failure. But instead of just getting up and moving on, I'm just gonna give it like 10, 20 seconds, probably a little bit less. I'm a little bit jumpy when it comes to these, but a little bit of recovery so I can just burn out with like 5 more. Got to rack it again. Another little bit of a breath hold, or a little bit of a break, and then maybe only get 2 more. But it's just a nice way to change it up. Just doing straight sets for every set of the lift. I'm not gonna say it won't work, but you got to add some funkiness in here every so often. Add some supersets, drop sets. rest pause, you know, it's just a little bit. And not just to spice it up, because it will make it more enjoyable, a little bit less repetitive, but also, you know, different fucking stimulus, right? I want to hit everything from every angle and style imaginable. Oh. Let's move on. So same style here that I was doing over there. I don't know, it just feels kind of good. I've been doing kind of lighter hamstring days the last few leg days, like sitting here with half the stack instead of the whole stack, and hold it for a good second, back down, good second, really burning. But I just kind of feel like moving around a good amount of weight, and not for no reason, right? It also feels good. Like I can tell my hamstrings are getting, well, let's just say they're on their way to fully pumped. And this is going to be a perfect addition to that process. Okay. A few more. Okay. One more. Okay. Okay. All right. With that, I'd go so far as to say hamstrings are fully cooked. Oh my goodness. So, luckily now we only have to move one machine over. Camp out on leg extensions for a little while. I don't mind keeping legs kind of simple, as long as I feel fatigued at the end of it. Like, I mean, you know, my legs are really out of it. And I get a gnarly pump. If all that comes from hamstring curls and leg extensions, I'm not going to be upset about it. All right, so I have a semblance of a plan for quads. And that plan starts with at least 2 sets of, as heavy as I can go, single leg extensions. So I'm going to do right leg first. So this is a style of set where, you know, quote unquote, hitting failure is a little bit arbitrary in a way. You know, because like a squat or a bench, those are movements where you physically won't be able to complete another rep, and you're either going to get smushed or drop whatever you're doing on the safeties. But with stuff like this, you know, I'm not really just going to hit a point of failure where I can't move anymore. I'm still going to be able to kind of bounce it around here at the bottom for a few. So I kind of call it just probably once I can't get legit reps in. Obviously the beginning, full extension, good stretch, full extension. But as I get weaker and weaker and weaker, maybe once I'm right around here and I know it's burning, that's enough for me to say, all right, that was a good one. But, you know, make sure you push yourself hard. Don't just rack it, you know, for no reason. You know when you got like 10 extra reps and you do not want to do a set with 10 extra reps left. I wouldn't. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm just saying I wouldn't. Okay. Let's go a little heavier. Okay. All right, a lot. A couple more here. Okay. Okay. One more of this leg extension. So what was that? 3 normal straight heavy sets. Okay, keep quiet about this. I don't want them to hear. But I'm going to scare my quads with this one. I'm going to change it up. So instead of just another heavy set, I'm going to go a bit lighter and do not exactly pause reps, but kind of like half reps, pause, then completion. So first half, hold it, then finish. So basic premise, it'll look like this. I'm still gonna do single leg, right? Down, come up halfway, stop it, and then finish the rep. So I like this, and this definitely kind of helps me get a bit of a, let's say a little bit easier of a contraction, because when I do a normal rep, or when anybody does normal reps, once you get the weight moving, it doesn't really want to stop moving, so you can kind of ride the momentum up to the top. You know, the other kind of movement that I do these sort of sets on is bicep curls a lot. So I'll go halfway up, but instead of just riding the momentum up, which isn't a bad way to do it, I mean, I'll still get a good rep, but halfway, then the only thing that's going to be able to get that weight moving again is if I manually contract my bicep even harder. So same thing here with quads, right? Halfway up, stop it. And I'm not going to hold it for a second, but just let it reach 0 speed, right? And then finish. So just a little bit of a way to change it up. Okay. 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 Oh. All right. Let's move on to the other leg extension, and I'll explain why once we're over there. All right. Yeah. Hamstring stole the show on that one. I went over to the other leg extension, but it felt just a little funky on the right one, so I think I'll just call it there. I don't want to overdo it, but still, let's just see how much of a pump we got, even with a little bit of a lower volume / intensity quad lift. I mean, you tell me. I love it. Ooh. Hey man, that's fucking sick. This line, that is fucking cool. Just the fucking valley of separation between hamstring and quad. Eesh. Yeah, so what I'm really aiming for, there's a little bit of roundness here, but I want this to be like if you cut a soccer ball in half and then taped it to the back of the leg. That would be ideal. But that pretty much covers it. I gotta get home quick and go to sleep. This is an absurd hour. Oh, so let's get in the car. Oh, I just gave myself a little bit of a panic attack. Not legit, but I turned my mic, like the little head mic, off. So when I got in the car, it was off, and I was like, holy shit. Did I get no sound for that whole video? Whoops. Well, I guess that wouldn't really affect me. It'd only affect you. Lack of audio isn't going to hinder my pump. So, whatever. But, yeah. Oh my goodness. I just looked at the clock. Yeesh. So, I think plan now is just go home, eat a relatively large meal, the likes of which should consist of maybe 150, 200 grams of carbs or so, 50 grams of protein, and then however many grams of fat. And that can kind of be whatever. Maybe I'll do cereal, maybe I'll do some kind of, I don't know. I don't really know what kind of food is at the house, so I'm going to have to improvise. But tomorrow is going to be chest. Of course, it's after morning cardio, so I'll wake up. I don't know when I'll wake up, probably a nasty hour, but get my butt out of bed, throw some pants on, and go to the Y and do my 30 minutes. So post daily cardio, which, let me just run through the whole cardio routine. So ideally, this is my little get up and go technique. So before I even go to bed, I'll set a little caffeine capsule, a little Hostile Pure caffeine capsule on my nightstand, plus at least a liter of water with some electrolytes or some, why the heck am I forgetting the name of it? Well, with some aminos and some other electrolyte mix. So as soon as I wake up, slam that, and then the caffeine capsule, and then by the time I actually get in the car, have all my clothes on, drive to the gym, should be relatively awake. Now, 200 milligrams of caffeine, is that absolutely necessary to get cardio done? No, that's just kind of a little premise of waking up. That's just how I like it. Now, fasted, unfasted, I don't think it matters too much, man. I mean, I definitely want to do cardio in the morning and then have pretty much the day to recover from it. Not that it's that intense, but I don't want to be tired from the cardio before I do my actual lift. Like if I did my 30 minutes of cardio before I started lifting weights, like right before, I mean, I will have burned off some glycogen, and then not even getting so scientific about it, I'll just be fucking tired out. And then when I do my actual chest workout, I'm hindered energy-wise. It's not going to be as good of a lift. My sets probably won't be as intense. And then I can almost guarantee I'm not going to be so pumped. So I want to do my cardio as far away from the lift as possible, and then not hinder my sleep. So I'm not really gonna. It's never really made sense to me to want to do cardio before bed at nighttime, like morning lift and then night cardio. I can't really get behind it. More of a morning cardio, night lift type of lifter. But fasted, unfasted, you're still gonna burn the same amount of energy. It's it doesn't matter if your gas tank in your car is at full or at half. If you drive 20 miles, you're still going to burn 1 gallon. So if you want to have a breakfast beforehand, if you're bulking, that's probably going to be ideal, right? You want to start eating food as soon as possible to get your daily calories up right when you wake up, so you don't have to eat so much later on. And then if you're dieting, maybe skip breakfast, jump straight to the cardio, and then wait to eat until a little bit later in the morning, so that when you are actually kind of eating, you can eat a little bit more. That's sort of my approach to it. So when I'm dieting down, pretty much I end up just skipping breakfast, and I'll have something around usually noon or so. Not because I think there's a crazy special benefit to you know intermittent fasting or anything like that, but if I eat from a window of let's say noon to, well, whenever I go to bed, maybe 11 or so, then the meals that I do eat, they can be a little bit bigger than if I were to eat from whenever I wake up to when I go to sleep. So usually for me in the morning, it's not super hard for me to wait a little bit longer to start eating. If you get through, let's say your calorie limit for a diet, dieting down is at 2,500. Let's say that's your max. You don't want to go over that. If it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you've already eaten 2,000 calories, it's going to be tricky for you to limit yourself to 500 before you go to bed. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're much more likely to, maybe have a little 500 calorie dinner. Maybe you make it that far, and then, you're getting ready to go to bed, you're still fucking hungry. You have a diet soda or something, it's not enough to hold you over, and you're like, I'm fucking hungry. Start scarfing down food. Come on. Not ideal. And I'm not ripping on you for that, because I've done that before too. If I run through my calories early in the day, that's when I'm most likely and when I would end up kind of going overboard at night. So, you got to take advantage of the fact that you can have foresight as a human with a working brain and think, okay, maybe I shouldn't have a 1,500 calorie breakfast. Maybe I should tone it down a little bit so that I don't go over my calorie limit. So that's sort of my thoughts there. But I guess that only really pertains, the cardio part, to you if you're doing your cardio. Which, I'm not a New Year's resolutioner, but I'm definitely not going to rip on you for making cardio your New Year's resolution. At least if you try to stick to it. So, not gonna turn that into a cardio rant. Let's just get back. So even with just 4 sets of leg extensions, nothing insane, that was still a pretty good quad pump. I think probably the next quad day will be a bit more intense too. Yeah. The only thing that I'm going to change in my training / recovery process over, I don't know, some period of time, maybe tomorrow I'll go get one, is I want a massage gun. I want like a Theragun, and I'm just gonna run that all over me. Maybe it'll do me some good, loosen up some internal muscular fibers and fascia or whatever, and do me some good. Because it would make sense. Not that this is exactly how this shit works, but just in a kind of a bro science-y way of looking at it. If you've got all these fibers in your muscles and some of them are kind of tangled up together, right? Something that looks like this, that's not going to want to get pumped up full of blood. So if you're nice and loose and rolled out and Theragunned or whatever, and you're like this, right? Once you start lifting, oh, that shit wants to pump up. So what if that's just mumbo jumbo, whatever. Either way, it'll probably feel pretty good to just run one of those on my quads in the morning, or my hamstrings or whatever. Probably upper shoulders too. I think I got to start implementing a stretching routine, and not only just for general mobility, which would be a good thing, but in terms of my front delts especially, I need to loosen up in here so that I can kind of pull my shoulders back a bit further when I do my pressing movements, so I can get less front delt activation. Because just the rounded overness of my posture, it lets my front delts take over a lot in my pressing movements, for chest that is. So I'm not trying to hit front delts, man. I'm trying to work my freaking upper, mid, and just a touch of lower pecs. So whatever I can do to get my front delts out of the equation, I definitely want to work towards. But that's pretty much all I got there. So, home, food, ideally a meal big enough to distend my stomach and let me have a very nice night's sleep, then wake up and just do it all over again. Tomorrow's my, I guess, technically today. Depends on when you're watching this, but it's my first day of a winter online class between semesters. So I got to learn about heat transfer. I don't think it'll be that bad. I just need to get reacquainted with my calculator. But that's all I got, man. I will see you next time.